Hello, everyone. Welcome, ground passers, to our Australian Open round one and round two review. The Australian Open has delivered. I love Grand Slam season as it is, Nick, and we're in a good place. We are in a good place with the Australian Open.
Very good place. I've probably seen about half of it, but what I've liked, what I have seen or interacted with, there's definitely been one or two nice stories to enjoy coming out of this sort of first couple of rounds. I think we are building some kind of big crescendo, but we've had quite an explosive opener, and it's all been about the qualifiers.
Yeah, yes. Guys, didn't we tell you? We always tell you this. We even give you a list of people to pay attention to, and it always turns out this way. But particularly this year at the Australian Open, it's been all about the qualifiers. I don't know how you have been watching for the most part, Nick, but I have been pretty strict with myself. And I think there was only one night where I kind of broke the rules and I stayed up late to watch tennis. But for the most part, I have a hard rule. At midnight, I go to bed and I wake up at 5:36 a.m. to continue catch up with all of the matches the next day. For the most part, I'm either doing highlights for the matches that I don't really need to watch every single ball of, and then some matches I am watching the entire thing. So I would be interested to know how people are keeping up with the Australian Open, especially either in the States or in the UK, because I've seen some people who message us on threads and they're just staying up the whole time, which is a lot.
You either have no jobs to go to or you can't sleep. Yeah, I'm astounded. Look, you're committed, and I admire that a lot, and I wish I could too. Um, I am kind of. It's been interesting because I'm kind of catching the matches that Anastasia doesn't with her rule,
Yeah.
because I'm waking up at 6 a.m. ish. I think there's a couple of days where I went, nope, can't do this, sleeping more. But for the most part, 6 a.m. start and putting on the tennis. Well, check the live score for a good match, put that match on, then see what the results were, and then I just sort of watch as much as I can until work starts for me at about 8:39, and then it depends on whether I'm working from home or not, which most of this week I haven't. But yeah, it's been this week's, I've got that window of enjoy the tennis. I've also actually been consuming some of the tennis through radio, because the BBC do radio coverage of all the Grand Slams, which I forgot to mention on previous episodes when talking about how you can enjoy the Australian Open. And I like radio commentary because it's like you can enjoy people having a conversation about the tennis, or they can kind of bring it to life with what's going on and really bring out the drama and just describing it. And the BBC have got a good team. Like, they've got Russell Fuller, who's their long-term tennis correspondent. They've got Abigail Johnson, who we interviewed for Meet the Professionals,
Yes, we did.
and Gigi Salmon, who's kind of the main Sky Sports lead for the TV coverage. And then they've got like a couple of ex-players, or they've got Leon Smith, who's the GB Davis Cup captain, and they've got Mark Woodford, who was a doubles player from about nearly 30 years ago at this point. Yeah, it's quite a good team, and I'm quite enjoying that. And that's been quite good to have in my ear whilst I'm working if I can't watch. But yeah, that's how I've been consuming it. But it's quite funny that Anastasia and I will tag team. Anastasia will go
Yeah.
to sleep. It'll be about an hour, and then I will wake up and take over pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. If you've been following us on social media, because I post everything, 99.999% it's me posting. And the other part has now been Nick. So when Nick wakes up, he takes over our threads and Twitter account for like a few hours, and then I come back and finish up the day. Or if all the matches are done, I just post our updates. If you're not following us on Instagram or TikTok, you're missing the daily coffee catch ups, which have been really, really fun. And I have to say, this is the moment where we thank everyone, because since the Australian Open started, we have had quite the uptick in our follower accounts on all of our accounts. So thank you so much. And of course, I think too, with the release of Off Season, our documentary series, thank you guys so much for all your kind words. They mean a lot. So yeah, like, we're again, I think I said this before, but we are closer to 4,000 on YouTube now. So if you're watching this or listening to us and you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please like and subscribe, because we want to put more content for sure on YouTube, especially like our documentary series. And the more followers we have there, the more people can see it. So that'll be great. And of course, do the usual thing with podcast, players, like, give us 5 stars, leave a comment, tell us what you're loving. We love to read all of that stuff. You mentioned, Nick, the BBC coverage on the radio. And I think before we move on to actually the look back at round 1 and 2, I need to mention ESPN, because it has become a thing. It has become a real thing, especially over here in the States, where ESPN is the provider, is who shows the Australian Open. And I think there was definitely confusion at first with the level of ESPN that you needed in order to watch the Grand Slam. Usually, years past, all you needed was ESPN Plus, which is about $12.99 a month, is kind of where it sits, and that's all you needed. Well, this year they've switched it up. So with ESPN Plus, you needed a cable subscription to get like their main channels, but all of the matches were streamed just on ESPN Plus. But if you wanted sort of like the main commentators or anything like that, you still needed a cable subscription. Most people didn't want that, so that was fine. So now what they've done is that there's now this new service, ESPN Unlimited, which if you don't have a cable subscription, you can get everything that's on ESPN, their main broadcast, ESPN, ESPN2, and also all the content you would have gotten on ESPN Plus. So it is for basically cord cutters who don't have cable but want the whole ESPN experience. Well, what they've done though is that they've moved a lot of the matches that people were used to just getting all of on ESPN Plus. They don't provide all of the matches now. They only provide a select few, which, with ESPN Unlimited being $30, yes, it is exactly $30. It's not like $30.99 or anything, but it's exactly $30. That's just more. That's a lot more money for people. So it definitely causes stir here, because it also, it was the first day of the Grand Slam. People are just expecting to put on ESPN Plus and watch it. So it was a little bit chaotic. I made a video, which is on our social media, and I'll just talk about it here. I also put it on YouTube Shorts. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you would have seen it. But it was about VPNs, because I remember in our preview episode, I mentioned I would try out the VPN for Australia and make sure it works. I already use a VPN when I watch Roland Garros or the Wimbledon, because I like the local coverage of it. Even though I have ESPN, I like the BBC commentators, so I like to listen to them sometimes. Well, it works for the Australian Open. If you have a VPN, you can sign up like you're in Sydney and download or make an account on Channel 9 now, and you get to watch all of the Australian Open matches for free. You don't get on demand, so you can't watch them back. You would have to actually pay for that service. But in terms of just watching it live, having all of the courts available for you to watch, if you already have a VPN, this is a way that you can watch the tennis for cheaper than ESPN. I think is the perfect jumping off point to start talking about round 1 and round 2 of the Australian Open. And the first thing I want to address is the crowds, because every day so far of the Australian Open, and we have just completed day 5, has been a record-breaking day. Every single day they're like, we broke records. We broke another record. We broke more records. It has been super crowded. And have you seen any of the coverage of the crowds at the Australian Open? And what do you think is responsible for this? Because I have my own ideas, but I wanted to know what you think.
I mean, yes, I have seen the coverage. I was seeing it since the Australian Open Fan Week, or whatever it is they call it, but I call it Australian Open Fan Week. They've been talking about how like 200,000 people went to that over the course of that week, which is like double the previous year, and then it's just been going on and on and on. Yeah, it's now the busiest Australian Open ever. I think a lot of it's just down to tennis is bigger now. It's a bigger deal, you know, for a lot of countries. So it doesn't surprise me that Australia is kind of jumping on that as well. We're seeing it in the US, we're seeing it in the UK. I also think that Australia is also a great location for fans from other countries who maybe don't have home tennis tournaments or don't or like there's a bit closer. Like it's a great location for if you're kind of in the Southeast Asia segments, which is pretty big for if you're someone like Indonesia to go and support Janice Chen, or which I think is probably the cause of a lot of the crowds on day 3 when she played. Was it day 2? It was around one match. Alex Eala had crowds queuing out of the 1,500 seat stadium she was in. That was probably like 10 times the crowd that it could take. It was madness. And it was just a sign of how popular she was. And I think she and other players from sort of neighbouring nations, but particularly Eala herself, are a big reason for these crowds and the stars kind of attracting people. I guess now we've just seen how popular she is, and it's not just about social media numbers.
Yeah, it is not at all. And I think I totally agree with you with the reasonings behind the crowds. I think tennis is on the up. I've been saying this now for I feel like a year, and more people are interested in it. And also, tennis tournaments have become more of an event. Like, I feel like before you would go to a tennis tournament for the tennis because that's what was there, tennis. But they have started to put so much around the tennis. There are concerts, there are places to lounge and just have drinks and hang out. I know people who go to tennis tournaments who never make it onto a stadium. There are all the screens all around, so you can still watch the tennis. And if you just grab a group of friends, get a ground pass, just go hang out on a nice summer day. And I've seen like photos and footage of what Melbourne Park looks like. And it's a park. Like it just looks like a park where you'd go hang out with your friends. And I think that's what's attracting people. It's summer right now in Australia. And yeah, it just seems like a big festival vibe. And that's why, it's attracting so many people, as well as tennis just being on the rise as a sport. And like you said, there's so many neighboring countries. Like we're also going to talk about Zeynep Sonmez, who had huge crowds on her court as well. And Turkey's right there. If there isn't a local tournament there that Zeynep Sonmez can appear in, they could probably just come down to the Australian Open and like see her there. So yeah, it's been actually really, really great to see. I think tournaments are just going to have to deal with now players like Alex Eala who are uber popular. And if you're listening to us and you have no idea, I would ask you to go to YouTube, go to the Australian Open channel, and where they have posted all of the interviews of all of the players, and just look at the view count, and see the difference between Alex Eala videos and any other video on the site. So yeah, she's uber popular. And I was listening to her press conference, and she is just, first of all, just one of the best well-spoken players that we have in tennis at the moment. And she is just so appreciative of the crowds that come and see her. And it's just really nice to see someone so young, so well-spoken, so understanding of what is happening. And I'm going to leave a clip here of her interview, her post-match press interview, which she actually lost that match. And so considering that, and then what she said in press, super impressive.
It was so heartwarming, and I think that's one of the things that makes a loss like today a little bit harder, is that I know a lot of people were rooting for me, but then again, Alicia played really well. And, I just hope that this support continues with the losses along with the wins. I think that would really touch me. But then again, just the fact that everyone came out and really squeezed into that cozy court, I really appreciate it. I felt so loved, even when I was 5-2 down in the third, still felt the love. So I'm really appreciative and super thankful. Yeah.
Okay, so, Alex Ayala covered. I think she actually lost in doubles too, so she's not in the tournament anymore. For anyone who is looking to find out where she's going next, there is going to be a WTA 125 in the Philippines for the very first time, and she is going to be playing in it. She just got a wild card to play in that tournament. So definitely check that out. Guess what? WTA 125s are also free to watch on WTA Unlocked on their website. So definitely check that out. Next, day one. I don't know about you, Nick, but I love like the first and second day of Grand Slams because it can be so chaotic. And I especially love it when it is chaotic. And on day one, the Australian Open delivered with upsets and chaos. And we might as well start with the chaos because Yulia Putintseva is a trip and a half. And if you have not watched or gone live to a Yulia Putintseva match, you must. Did you see this, Nick?
I genuinely have no idea what you're talking about. I think I might
What?
I think I saw something about Yulia Putintseva. I know she's suddenly playing well again after a bit of a fallow season 2025. I think I saw there was a video of her. I didn't watch it.
Okay, so if you're like Nick and you have no idea what I'm talking about, Yulia Putintseva was playing against Beatrice Haddad Maia on the first day of the Australian Open. And Beatrice Haddad Maia is from Brazil, and Brazil is one of those countries that come out strong to support their players. So there were tons of people on the court just supporting Beatrice Haddad Maia, and that drove Yulia Putintseva crazy. And she's already someone who I think Yulia Putintseva, I don't know if it's part of her game plan or just who she is, but she loves to bring the drama, and she had it. And she was a set down, but then she came back and she won the match, and she just gave it to the crowd. If you haven't seen the video, I posted it in one of our I posted it actually on our day one recap, so go check that out. She is just giving it to the crowd and also speaking Spanish, even though they speak Portuguese, but I guess she doesn't know the words in Portuguese.
I mean,
So
they're
she
quite
just
similar
said it in
languages, but
Spanish.
not the same.
Exactly, but that was hilarious. Like, that was my start to the Australian Open, and I was like, yes, this is going to be a good day. It's going to be a great day. But then, of course, the upset starts. And this one is actually a pretty sad one because I think Marta Kostyuk was someone who we were looking at. Like, she had played so well in Brisbane, coming in strong into the Australian Open. And then she gets upset first in the first round, but also she ends it on an injury, which was sucky. I think it was 5-5 in the third or something where she twisted her ankle. I don't know if you checked that one out. What?
I think it might have even been 6-5 in the third.
Yeah. So did you watch that at all or no?
No, I didn't watch it back. I think I kind of caught everything I needed to know, and I didn't particularly want to see her get hurt, so I decided against it. But yeah, it means that she's now torn a ligament, essentially.
Yeah.
So this is putting her out for a good few weeks, which is a shame because, yeah, as you say, she was looking really good.
Yeah. And just I had been looking on the website because I wanted to give people the information if they wanted it. But the Philippines Women's Open, it's the first time it's happening, it's a WTA 125, is from January 26th to the 31st. So there is that information for you. Where do you want to go to next on our list, Nick?
While we're on day one, I'm trying to decide if we do day one or whether we do the first round anyway, or kind of go on a tangent about players and crowds. But I'm going to go with
players
the day
and
one.
Crowds?
Did you see Mirra Andreeva after she beat Maria Sakkari?
I did see that. Yes.
So she was also the only one who won against a very partisan crowd, in this case, pro-Greek crowd. And there's a lot of debate on social media as to exactly what she said when she was celebrating that win. Because it was pretty straightforward at first, and it got a bit tighter, and I think she didn't like how the crowd went against her in that second round match. But we know the second word was you, We're not entirely sure what the first word was. It could be one of two, and I'll let you work out which of those two it could be. Go watch the video. But that's the tangent. That's the other thing that's kind of been going around is Mirra Andreeva's feeling feisty right now, and she's pretty locked in.
Yeah, she's playing really well.
That's a tangent. Arthur Ferry, I'm the Brit. I've got to say Arthur Ferry beating Flavio
Yeah.
Cobolli, which no one saw coming. Least of all, any Brits. Like, Arthur Ferry is not a well-known British player. And then out of nowhere, he beats Flavio Cobolli in, like, straight sets.
Yeah.
Now everyone's heard. Now everyone in the UK has heard of him. Or at least all the people who like tennis in the UK have heard of him. We will see whether he gets much of a following at the British grass courts in Queens and Nottingham and even Wimbledon. I would imagine this is going to be enough to give him a Wimbledon wildcard, not going to lie.
Didn't he get one last year? Because I believe he kind of had this similar thing where, so Flavio Cobolli is the 20th seed, and when Arthur Ferry won, the news that came out and it reminded me of it is that I believe it was last year, he beat the 20th seed in his first round match and then went on to meet Carlos Alcaraz and then lost to him. Do I remember that
Wimbledon.
Right? Or was it
that wasn't Arthur
at Wimbledon?
Ferry. That wasn't Arthur
Who
Ferry.
did Arthur Ferry
That was
beat?
Oliver
Oliver Tarvett.
Oliver Tarvett, yeah. But yeah, so
Wimbledon.
I mean, look, Wimbledon always gives wild cards to Brits anyway, so he was probably going to get one, but he's now first in the queue.
That's what it was. So last year he beat Alexei Popyrin, the 20th seed in the first round, and then lost to Luciano Giarderi in the second round. Yeah, that's what happened. Yeah. I have to mention in this is that Cobolli was extremely sick. He had a medical timeout, and the physios came to take a look at him, and it seemed like he definitely had some stomach issues, unfortunately. It wasn't completely all Arthur Ferry, even though he played really well, because that's also another thing I think sometimes where it's like when your opponent is sick, sometimes you'll be surprised that people still lose the match because there's, people don't know how to deal with that sometimes. But Cobolli was really sick, unfortunately, in this first round match. Another person who was, looking good coming off of all his Davis Cup, victories last year. And Flavio Cobolli has just never done well at the Australian Open. I think he lost first round last year as well. So hopefully he gets well soon and he'll be back playing tennis all nice and healthy. Someone who was a surprise exit as well was FAA.
Yeah, I thought you were going to throw to that because that seems the natural person to move on to next. Felix Auger-Aliassime out first round. I am not massively surprised, not because I thought he would get injured or, he would struggle with cramp as he did. So he lost, he basically retired from his match after going 2-1 down to Nuno Borges. But I'm not surprised that he didn't make it through not because I don't think he's a good player, because he is. He's actually done pretty well in Australia before. I think there was a year where he almost beat Medvedev in 2022, where like Medvedev could have won against Nadal. But it was more because Nuno Borges is really, really good. And that was a really nasty first round. Borges has got a history at this Australian Open of playing well here. He'd won a couple of matches in the early part of the season. So I thought that's probably going 5 and Felix might be in trouble. I hope he feels better. I hope he kind of sorts himself out, doesn't feel too bad about what happened. Fortunately, cramp is something you can easily recover from. Yeah, FAA going out in that manner was probably where the story was.
Yeah, no, totally. Also, another big story, something we've been talking about this whole time, the WTA Next Gen. We keep saying they're here, and they are, and they're doing so, so well at the Australian Open. All Victoria Mboko, Mirra Andreeva, Iva Jovic, all into the third round, playing so good. So good. Yeah, I think it's just one of those things where it's something we saw early and they're still delivering. And when we get into, the matches to look out for in round 3, they all have some spicy matches coming up that in a lot of them I actually think they can win. So it would be nice to see if all 3 of them can get into the second week of the Australian Open. And that would be really cool.
I mean, I have very good feelings about Mboko making it, about Andreeva making it, even Iva Jovic. I mean, we talk about this a bit later in the pod, but I'm really excited for Iva Jovic's match. I think we need to throw another couple of WTA Next Gen names into the mix now, though, because they are not the only kind of young teenage players who've made it to the third round. We also have Teresa Valentova, who took out fellow Next Geners, Maya Joint in round one, and then Linda Fruhvirtova in round two in a bit of a topsy-turvy match. Fruhvirtova is kind of a forgotten Next Gen, like she won a WTA title at 17 and then nobody's really heard from her since. But she's still like 20 years old. She's still kind of in that category. I know we want to talk about crazy qualifiers later on, but we've got we have another 19-year-old who's also in the third round, Nicola Batsenkova, who I think has kind of put her name on the to watch list, and after beating Belinda Bencic today, which I know is a bit out of order chronologically, but that was like the biggest win of her career. First time she's been a top 10 player. She's kind of like been on the rise in 2025. She got to the semi-finals in Guadalajara, lost to Iva Jovic, and been picking up the odd win on the main tour. And I think now she's kind of said, I'm here and I've arrived. If you're probably wondering why we haven't talked about her much, it's because she's been getting the odd win in these small tournaments and not necessarily going super deep. I think also she didn't get the hype that others did because she missed 2024 or a lot of it. Yeah, Bartenkova's now in the mix. And I have to say, I think, regardless of how well she does, watch out for her on clay. Because that girl's a grinder. She got everything back against Bencic and then found a way of turning the point in her favour. I thought, classic clay court player. So I think I'm interested to see, if she does something similar again at Roland Garros. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of use this opportunity to say, hey, there's a couple of extra people in the next gen. Just saying.
Yeah. The next gen is really big on the WTA. And, while we're at it, because of course, Barentova is someone who I had seen in qualifying. And when I was making my list of top 5 qualifiers on the women's side to follow, it's like, you have to pick only 5. So you kind of try and stick to a tight group. But she definitely was in the mix there to be one of those 5. And here she is just doing so well. Belinda Bencic came into this tournament on a high. I mean, she was being talked about as someone who could possibly win this year. And for Barentova to just be so smart about the way she played, because she's little. She's 19 years old. She hasn't been around that long. So you think Bencic could, even though Bencic isn't known mostly as a power player, would basically overpower her. But no, she was just so smart about the way she played that match. And if you want to stick with sort of the qualifiers on the women's side, because I think that has been such a topic of this Australian Open, we have to then mention Zeynep Sonmez, who is a Turkish player who we've talked about for a while. I remember talking about her a lot during last year's US Open, because even though I had watched her on TV before, it was the first time I watched her in person. And I was just so taken by her game at the US Open. And watching her here through qualifying, I thought, wow, she made it into the main draw. This is so great. And then she has just kept on going. And all of her matches are Alex Ayala-esque in terms of her fans coming out. Every corner of whatever stadium she's been playing in is covered in red and white flags, red and white Turkish flags, and everyone just cheering for her. It's been so nice to watch her through this tournament. And now she's in the third round playing so well. It's been really fun.
Yeah, I really like Zeynep Sonmez's game. I'm really glad that she's consistently delivering on this Grand Slam stages. She seems to love it here. She's got a really exciting game. We saw that she can challenge anyone. She's beaten Alexandrova, who was in the top 10 until a couple of weeks ago and could be back in it depending on how things work out after this tournament. Sonmez, I'm so glad also that this is getting another country's fans involved. Watch out for closer tournaments than Australia to Turkey, if that's going to be the case, because I can imagine that they're going to be flooding to go to Rome when the WTA goes there, and if Sonmez can get in there, or even Paris, Roland Garros on the clay there, that's going to be really exciting to see and see the atmosphere they provide. And, we've seen some great atmospheres in matches this Australian Open because of a lot of these things, because of people turning out for their players. And that's made things really, really fun to watch.
Yeah, yeah. We can mention these two very quickly because they are in the same half of the draw. But Alexander Bublik, Sasha, is a top 10 player now, and he is playing like a top 10 player. I do not think I have seen a hit from the handle of the racket. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, Sasha does this sometimes where he's just feeling silly, and instead of hitting the ball like everyone else with the face of the racket where the strings are, he'll like flip it over and like toss it. I have not seen any of that. I don't even think I've seen a tweener. He is so locked in and just playing so like, within himself and just no extra. It's kind of scary. It's kind of scary because Sasha Bublik, I feel like, is the sort of player who could just do a crazy thing. I'm going to leave here a clip from his press conference where he was asked basically, like, why has it taken you so long to focus? Like, you're such a great player. Like, you have all this skill, but you've basically just been like not focusing and not taking it seriously. And I have to say I loved his answer. So I'll leave it here.
No, because I think you can't really push someone, in my opinion, to be honest. We all said, everyone was telling their kids, to learn from others' mistakes. I think we actually learn from our own mistakes. And you can't really push someone, in my opinion, unless you're going to break the guy. Maybe the results will come, but you may break a person. So for me, it's more about, everyone was telling me that. I mean, it's not like I'm playing for the first year or second year. I've been on tour for like, eight straight seasons in the top 50 or 7 straight seasons. And besides that, I was already top 100 in 2017. So it's been a long way. And I was listening to that and I was getting a lot of that. But it doesn't click in, It's the same like, I used to like to eat junk food, a lot. And I used to like to drink a lot of Coca-Cola or whatever. But now I don't, because that's my choice. And the same with mentality. So that's my choice. That's my choice that I feel that is nice, to stay in the rhythm. It's nice to, sleep well. It's nice to be with your family instead of going out, So that's more of a natural way of things. For me, if you say about like a wasted years, if you look from this perspective I am now, it may seem like this, but I was happy. I was doing what I felt to do, and I knew the consequence. So I was really, pragmatic in a way that I knew that if what I'm doing, I'm not capable of things. I'm not capable of being stable, top 20, top 30 player. I was always like 32, 35, 27, throughout the years. But I knew it, so I gave full, response to myself. So, okay, so Alex, you like it like this. You're happy. You have your kid. You have your wife. At the time, maybe it was a girlfriend. You're happy. You do whatever you want, and you still like an actual player that is still in top 50. You still make finals. Maybe I won one. Like all of a sudden I won the title, and I was happy. So looking back, I would not change a thing. And I don't know what's going to happen to Alex Bublik in 5 years' time. Will I be locked in like now, or maybe even more, or maybe even hungrier? Well, I will say, guys, I feel like I don't want to come to some tournaments because I want to be home. So it's more, for me, it's more of a natural way, and learning from your own mistakes. I guess that's important, to keep yourself full, not to break parts, or give pieces to someone because someone told you that this is a good way, you should do it, you squeeze your teeth and you go work, and then at the end, it's nice if you succeed. What if you don't? We've seen so many and career endings now from the guys my age, which is sad, which I don't believe. Like, the guy was just, someone was playing 1 year ago against me, now it's a coach. I'm like, okay, so, and then that, for me, that's an indication of someone who make finally a decision that they like, maybe they don't want to play anymore. So I think I respect that a lot when the people make their own decisions.
Nice. Thank you. That's great. Thank you.
And what he's basically saying in this is, he wasn't ready. Like, what he was doing back then, the sort of like just fun and games and not taking it seriously, he was happy doing that. And he almost had to grow up and realize that he wanted to take it seriously. And I think sometimes, in sport especially, I think sometimes spectators and fans put so much pressure on an individual in the sense that they're like, you see the talent and you're like, oh my goodness, like, why can't they just win everything? Or why can't they just do this? And it's such an individual thing. And sometimes I feel like the athlete needs to be one who finds it themselves and says, oh, I'm ready. Like now I'm ready to be the best that I can be. Sometimes they never get there. Sometimes they're just like, you know what? It's never going to happen. But I really resonated with his answer, and I really loved it. And then, did you see this match, Nick, between Carlos Alcaraz and Yannick Hanfmann?
No, but I woke up to a lot of people talking about it.
Yeah, it was one of those where Yannick Hanfmann turned into Yannick Sinner for a set and a bit. And you know when people say that sometimes though, where they're like, oh, this player played like Rafa Nadal at Roland Garros, and you're like, okay, everyone calm down. But no, Yannick Hanfmann turned into Yannick Sinner for a set and a bit. And it was a little scary. I was like, oh, wait, what is happening? Like, I was not ready for this sort of match in the second round of the tournament. So it was really interesting to watch. But at the same time, I don't know, again, if you have seen any of Carlos's matches this tournament, Nick, but it was one of those moments where, you know, so many people have been talking about how Carlos Alcaraz, Juan Carlos Ferrero, what's going to happen? Like, is he going to be able to like play tennis? He's fine, guys. He's all right. He can play tennis. He won that match in straight sets. He figured it out. You know, it was tough in the first set, but then he moved on from it and won the match. So I don't know what you think, Nick, about that, or if you've even watched any of his matches.
I haven't watched any of his matches. Haven't watched any of Sinner's matches either.
Mm.
Like, you know they're going to win. Probably when it gets like the middle of the tournament or towards the quarterfinals, when like, you know, that's when they're on. But like maybe see who can challenge them. But I'm kind of waiting for them to make the final. There will be players who will challenge them. And this is not unusual. Carlos Alcaraz also occasionally got into scrap with lower ranked players early in tournaments with Juan Carlos Ferrero. So it's not really changed anything for me. I don't necessarily need to see it to know that. So yeah, I think at the moment it seems to me like, yeah, status quo. Carlos sometimes gets into a scrap. Yannick Sinner has no issues getting through his opponents. They still get to the final in their own special ways. And we will wait to see if there is a Grigor Dimitrov or Francis Tiafoe-esque moment that sort of shakes them up a bit. But that's probably going to be more towards the next phase of the tournament where that could happen.
Yeah. Nick, is the Fonseca hype too high?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right.
It depends on what you mean by too high. Right. Which hype you're talking about. Okay. So is he? Because the hype about Joao Fonseca, if you didn't know, is he's hyped as the next big thing. He's hyped as the biggest player of this new generation coming through, and will one day challenge Carlos Alcaraz and Yannick Sinner. And there are some people who think that day will be now, and there are some people who think that day will be in a few years. I am very much in a few years camp. It's difficult because we haven't seen them play properly yet. We've seen Alcaraz and Fonseca in an exhibition. The kid's definitely got something. Like, he's got some big weaponry, but he's still learning the tour, and he's still yet to unlock that thing that sets him ahead of the pack. But in terms of what he could do, a lot of people who are much more knowledgeable than me will say he's going to be good because this, and this. A bit like we were talking about with Bublik, right? We've got this, like, they have the tools, why don't they use them to win? He's not learned how to do that yet, has Fonseca. He hasn't learned to do that week in, week out, every day. He can do it in bursts, but it's not necessarily that. So, yeah, he goes into Australian Open and he goes out where he did well last year, got to the third round, loses in first round. That happens to a lot of younger players. What happened? I'll give an example. Like, you know how many matches in the first round that Roger Federer or Novak Djokovic lost around about that age? Like, I think in 2002, after Federer broke through when he was like 2021, he went out in the first round of Roland Garros and Wimbledon, and he was like top 10 at that point. Like, he was well ahead of Joao Fonseca, and everyone was going, oh, have we hyped this kid up too much? And then 1 year later, he won his first Wimbledon, and it kind of snowballed from there. Or Novak Djokovic, this kid's going to retire. not going to win, he's going to retire from every match. He ends up becoming one of the fittest guys on tour, and is still playing at 37, 38, however old he is now, 38. So Joao Fonseca, if you're hyping him to win now, yes, he's overhyped. If he's going to win if you're in the he's going to win in a few years crowd, no. Wait for him to figure it out. Wait for him to figure out how to use the tools that he's got.
Yeah. That's all I have to say about that. But he lost first round to Elliot Spizzirri. And I'm here to tell you guys that the off-season effect is real. It is a real thing. It is something that I had at the back of my mind, but I didn't really want to say it out loud. But now we have 3 players who were featured in the offseason who have made it to round 3 of the Australian Open, the best performance they have ever had at the Australian Open. And the off-season effect is real. So if you haven't watched the off-season, this is your chance. I'm going to leave a link to this YouTube video if you're watching it. And if you're just listening, I will leave a link in the description so you can check out Off-Season, our documentary that features Elliot Spizzirri, Ethan Quinn, Hailey Baptiste, who are all in the 3rd round of the Australian Open, and follows them through the prep that it took for them to get to where they are now. And I mean, it's actually kind of been incredible just watching them. Elliot Spizzirri, as we said, he beat Joao Fonseca, which, by the way, I called from the beginning, not because of anything particular other than the fact that he's beaten him before. He beat him during qualifying of US Open 2024. So he now leads that head-to-head 2-love. When I knew that it was very possible he would get through Fonseca, Elliot Spizzirri's draw from then on wasn't that bad to get to where he's going to be now in the 3rd round, which we'll talk about in a bit. I thought Ethan Quinn for sure had the tougher route to get further, because first round he was playing Talon Griekspoor. He's never beat Talon Griekspoor before. Second round, it was going to be Hubie Hurkacz most likely. I don't even know if they've played before, actually. I think this was the first time they met. And he beat them both in straight sets. He is serving out of a tree. I have never seen Ethan Quinn serve this well, but it's been exciting to see Hailey Baptiste. She actually had a lucky loser in her first round in Taylor Townsend, and she got through that. And then she got qualifier Storm Hunter in her second round. She got through that as well with ease. She's looking so good, so fit. It's been really, really rewarding to see, especially since I watched them train through the off season. So I've enjoyed seeing all of the work that they put in actually lead to great results at the Australian Open.
Yeah, I mean, they would be some of the stories of the Australian Open anyway, but because of the links to us, like, it's so exciting seeing this off-season prep going well. And clearly they had a good off-season prep, and it was interesting that, they've all, what had in common is that they had Anastasia following them around with a camera and a drone for a couple of weeks. So some good wins. I mean, like, we've always known they're players with potential, and it's great to see them realizing that. I'm very excited about the off-season effect. I am also very curious to see how the off-season effect continues into round 3.
Yes. Before we jump into round 3, I think we would be doing a disservice if we did not speak about Stan the Man Wawrinka. It's all up here. It's all in here, because that 40-year-old man just played an epic 5-setter to get into the 3rd round. And, you know, what better? We always say it's so hard to predict anything when you say you're going to retire, in the sense that obviously you announce you're going to retire, and, you know, you hope for the best results. You hope to, like, at least have a few matches where you can, like, show how good you were and say goodbye. We saw, for example, in the case of Rafa Nadal, it wasn't exactly perfect. He did have one tournament where he got all the way to the finals, and you were like, okay, he still has it a bit, but, you know, he wasn't able to show it in sort of like the big tournaments. And here's Stan Wawrinka. He announces he's going to retire. He gets a wild card into the Australian Open, and he makes a third round. I don't remember the last time he even made the third round here, just in the years before he said he was going to retire. So really, really great moment for him. And yeah, it's been nice to see.
So I watched that match and I was rooting for Stan because I wanted him to have one more match on a big court. Ideally Rod Laver, but, Margaret Court will do. I mean, like Kia Arena where he was playing, he still had a great crowd and there was a great atmosphere. And here's what I loved. There's a couple of things I loved about this match. First of all, he was still fighting, even though you would think that at this point, surely a 40-year-old player cannot last 5 sets. By the way, he's the first person at the age of 40 to have won a Grand Slam match since the 1970s. Like, it's been 48 years since that last happened. It was 1978. And tennis was a very different sport back then. But he kept going. Not only that, he physically outlasted his opponent. Arthur Guy, who was playing, who, by the way, was coming in pretty strong because he'd won the Nemea Challenger, which is where James Watt, Eddie Majelli's boyfriend, was playing in. Then he went and did qualifying. He hadn't lost a match in 2026 yet. He was in the second round of the Australian Open. And he was like, oh, I've got 40-year-old Stan Wawrinka. I've got a chance here. And he goes 2-1 up. And then you get to the deciding tiebreak because Wawrinka was playing better in that fifth set. I think he had a chance to go break up. Or maybe, I think there was an exchange of breaks. And Wawrinka... And then Guy seems to get something like injury or cramp and starts struggling with his serve, with his movement. And you've got 40-year-old Stan Wawrinka on the other side to a 21-year-old. He's like, yeah, I'm fine. I can go a bit longer. I can do this. Gets the job done. And yeah, it is all up here because that's his mentality. And yeah, I just wanted those moments for Stan to kind of go, yeah, get another big win, get another epic 5-setter under his belt. He really plays for these kind of occasions. And yeah, I want him to have a good sign-off. So yeah, 100%. I think this might have been my favourite match of the tournament, to be honest. I think there was just so much going on with it. And I was certainly the one I was the most invested in. So well done, Stan. You've had a great Australian Open, whatever happens next, because he's playing Taylor Fritz next. And I'm kind of curious to see where that goes.
Yes, let us get into it because Nick, just before we started recording, we put together the matches for round 3. I was going through the draw, looking to see, okay, great. What are the spicy matches in round 3? Let's pick a few. I had to try so hard not to put literally every single match. It has been a while since round 3 has looked this good at a Grand Slam.
Anastasia, there are 32 round 3 matches. You wrote 13 of them on our planning document, and I can throw another couple more in there that I'm like, hey, I think we overlooked these. So, yeah, just watch all of round 3. That's the easiest thing to do. Just watch what you can live, go back and watch the rest on replay. I think you'll just have a good time with it. That's our preview of round 3 done. Watch all of it.
Watch all of it.
Watch half of it anyway.
Well, if you can't watch all of it and you want to kind of get an idea of what we're looking at that seems good, Nick has already mentioned the Stan Wawrinka Fritz match. Another one I'm looking at because we still have a cousin. We still have a cousin in the draw. Valentin Vachereau is still in there, and he is playing Ben Shelton next. It is, guys, just sit down. It might be one of those matches where it's just serves. It's just going to be serves all the way through. I think it was Ben Shelton played yesterday, and he had an entire set where he did not drop a point on serve. The whole set. He is so locked in right now. And then when you have someone like Valentin Vachereau, who I really just love his serve, it really pops. Just the sound of his serve, it just really pops. That could be a super, super fun match to watch.
Yeah.
Do you have another one?
Yeah. I am going to go with, there's one match that my eye keeps getting drawn to. It's on the women's side. Let's talk about first women's match. Jasmine Paolini and Iva Jovic. Next gen versus top 10, baby. Let's go. And Iva Jovic has had a really good start to the year. She's racked up the wins. She's got a semi-final in Auckland, followed by a final in Hobart. She's followed up, with her first big stage win against Priscilla Hon on Rod Laver the other night. She's seeded. She's now looking to assert herself, and she's playing Jasmine Paolini, who is having a decent start to the year. And she's always really, really tough to beat, and she's gonna make you work to beat her. I think Iva Jovic is willing to put in that work, and I think we're going 3. And I think their forms are close enough. I think that's your blockbuster match, and that is probably going to be the match I am going to wake up to on day 6, so the Friday. Probably as it starts just after Anastasia goes to sleep.
Exactly. Sticking with the women's side, I have to bring up Hailey Baptiste and Coco Gauff. That is, other than the fact that obviously I'm watching every off-season player, I think that's just a really fun matchup. And it would be interesting to see how Hailey Baptiste, who's someone during the off-season, she made it a point. She really wanted to work on her fitness. And then you're playing the fittest player on tour. That's going to be the real test there. So that's definitely a match I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, I've got a question for you after this. I think it could be interesting. So yeah, we've got Gauff versus Baptiste, which I'm looking forward to. I mean, we might as well just tick off the off-season lads, right? At this point, so let's do the other kind of big stage debut that's happening, because Elliot Spizzirri is playing Yannick Sinner. He got through a 5-setter with Wu Yubing, which was pretty tight and really well contested. And now he's got probably the toughest test in tennis, tied with that Carlos Alcaraz. I would argue if you're a lower ranked player, Yannick Sinner's slightly harder, because Carlos Alcaraz will want you to have a go and then go, okay, that was fun, now I'm going to beat you. Yannick Sinner does not let you do that. He stifles you. So I'm interested to see how Elliot Spizzirri steps up against the defending Australian Open champion and what he's going to do there. If anything, it's going to be a good experience. And if he beats Yannick Sinner, then I'm just going to be like, well, clearly every player is going to be queuing up to get to be in a documentary with Anastasia.
I'm just saying, if that happens, call my agent. Okay, guys? Call my agent. That's what's going to happen. And then, of course, we've got Ethan Quinn, who is playing Jakub Mensik. Again, 2 really tall, big servers. I don't know what's happening to me, because this is not usually the game that I like in terms of tall, big servers is not my thing. But these are also players who can move, who have variety also in their game. So I am excited to see Mensik take on Quinn and see if Quinn can hold up this form, because he is looking really, really good. Another kind of interesting matchup that I think might be the real test for Rybakina is Teresa Valentova. Teresa Valentova is sneaky good. Guys, if you're not watching her, she is sneaky good. And coming up against Rybakina, that's the one I have on upset alert of all of these matches. That's my upset alert match. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of agree. That if anything's going to happen out of nowhere, you've got Valentova, who's kind of coming through and trying to prove a point. Yeah, I would agree. I think that one you've got to keep an eye on how Rybakina does in that, and how she faces that challenge, and what Valentova's going to do. Because yeah, she's up for a fight, I think. Fully on board with that as your upset alert. Really good call there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say though, while we're here, we've mentioned Zeynep Sonmez already and Yulia Putintseva. They're playing each other, so that's going to be a sort of a fun. That's going to be winner goes through to be almost that could be your ground pass final, depending on how the other ground passes do in the third round. So huge opportunity to kind of set the year off right for both players, and I think whoever wins could be in for a very, very good season. So it's worth checking out the story there. One I'm very curious about, Zverev and Norrie. Can Norrie beat Zverev? Can the diver's lungs manage kind of last against Zverev, who will make you work? It hasn't before, it might now. If anyone can do it, Cameron Norrie can.
Yeah, yeah. Those two matches I actually put together because if you're the sort of person who just likes drama and you just want to see a bit of aggro, just Cameron Norrie and Zverev, Yulia Putintseva, and Zeynep Sonmez, something's going to happen there. I just know it. Something is going to happen there. So, yeah, those are our matches. Oh, the last one that I will just say, just one more match, because again, this is someone who's been looking really good. Didn't really have like a pre-Australian tournament. I think he lost first round in one of them, but Francisco Cerundolo he looks good. He's playing well. I don't know. He might be doing something, and I don't know what he's doing, but he might be doing it. And I think he plays Andre Rublev next, and I think this match will decide for me what's going on with Cerundolo, because he's someone who, I always have him kind of like around like the players I'm watching, but sometimes he kind of disappoints me in draws, and sometimes he, kind of exceeds expectations in draws. But he's kind of looking good right now. So we'll see. He's playing Rublev next, and I'll be really interested to see what the results of that match.
Can I throw one more in very quickly?
Yeah.
Casper Ruud against Marin Cilic. Wawrinka is not the only aging Grand Slam champion through, guys. Marin Cilic is doing things, and this is actually his second Grand Slam third round in 12 months. He dismissed Denis Shapovalov in straight sets, who was seeded. And Casper Ruud is, a little distracted right now because he might have to retire from a match because his wife is giving birth. But even if he doesn't do that, I do think that on a hard court, Cilic has a chance if he's anything like the Cilic that we recognised from a few years ago. So watch this space. I do think that there's another chance for some aging heroics to take place. So that's why I'd say keep an eye on that one.
Okay, so that has been our review of round 1 and 2 and our look ahead to round 3. I'm really excited for the results coming out of round 3. We will come back to you for a review of round 3 and 4 and our preview of the quarterfinals. Somewhere in between there, we are also going to have our fashion episode. I am scheduling that right now. So whenever I get it scheduled and recorded, we will fit it into the schedule somewhere. Nick, you're not going to be with me for the next episode.
Nope. Sorry.
So it's going to be someone else with me. We will, come back to check out who I'm going to get for that episode. And yeah, thank you all for joining us. Check out the off-season episode 1 if you haven't. Episode 2 is coming out February 1st. Excited for that to drop as well. Please like and subscribe. It really does help out the channel and make us make more content like the off-season. And if you're listening to this on a podcast player of your choice, give us 5 stars, leave us a review, and we will see you on the next episode. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.